Well, there are a lot of traveler's notebooks out there. Heaven knows I have watched more than my fair share of them. But I thought I had enough of a unique perspective that it was probably worth throwing one more out there for people to watch. I should warn you, though, that if you came here looking for a traveler's notebook exploding with stickers or a nice steaming cup of liquid sitting here on my desk, you are not going to find that. This one takes a more practical approach to using the traveler's notebook for some specific purposes I have in mind, which I will get to in just a bit. As a bit of background, I have been in IT for several decades, so my approach is going to tend to be more methodical than it will be creative when it comes to the traveler's notebook. I also don't intend for this to become a long-term YouTube channel, maybe a year or two, just to share my original goals and plan, why I did what I did, and then every couple of months maybe post a video with follow-up on what has and hasn't been working, as I know the best laid plans typically tend to be forced into evolving once the rubber actually hits the road and we start using these things. So what inspired me to even do this and get into Traveler's Notebook in the first place? My grandfather, Robert, adored his father, Joseph Landon. Landon is actually what he went by. And he kept everything that he inherited from his father, and that has now worked its way to me. And that included a box with well over 40 daily journals that he kept year by year. Believe it or not, my grandfather actually even went to the level of going through every single one of these journals and typing them into Microsoft Word so that we have them in a digital format. The paper that he printed off for me is about that thick of all these journal entries. So let me pull a few of them out here and kind of review them a little bit. These date back to, I think 1914 is the earliest one, all the way through 1948, which is this one here. As you can see in each of these journals, literally every day, he made a note about what he did that day. Like here's an entry from August. It says, Peter Kaiser and I took the Cadillac and then ate. The less said, the better. But it was a pea show. No idea the context on that one, but very interesting entries. And I have, as you can see from these, we've got over 40 of them on a day-by-day journaling basis. On top of that, he also kept a scrapbook journal, which is more just kind of, what do you all call it? Most crafty channels refer to it as ephemera. But you can see as I go through these pages, we have all sorts of, this is my great uncle's report card from school from 1925. Looks like he wasn't too good in spelling. FFCF. My great-grandfather was actually a conductor on the railroads. So he, in a course of a week, he might be in 5 different cities, all the way from California to New York. He was all over the place. He was he was employed by the New York Central Railroad. You can see they get passes to kind of travel from place to place. This is Buffalo, New York to Detroit, Michigan. Lots of business cards, tickets, even in here. Here's the Michigan State Fair ticket. This one's interesting. Back in the day, the St. Louis Cardinals, if you wanted to watch the Cardinals, this is my grandfather's card. They call it the Cardinal Knothole Gang. And what you could do is they had a big fence around the Cardinals area, and you could look through the knot holes, and you had to have one of these cards to be able to look through the knot holes and watch the team. Here is an agreement of membership, and it says, in becoming a member of the Cardinal Knothole Gang and in accepting tickets to the games of the Cardinals, I agree that 1, I will not at any time skip school to attend a game. 2, I will attend no game against the wishes of my parents or employer. 3, I will uphold the principles of clean speech, clean sports, and clean habits, and will stand with the rest of the gang against cigarettes and profane language on the field. I understand that a breaking of this agreement may cost me my membership in the Cardinal Knothole Gang. So that was my grandfather's ticket or membership card into that. And see, we've got pictures, areas that they've been to, memorials for people that passed away, receipts. He was a member of Detroit Passenger Club. Hotel tickets, dance cards are sitting in here, all sorts of, here's a map of Canada from the time, the railroad layout of Canada at the time, all the railroad tracks that went between, let's see, South Dakota, North Dakota, up into Lake Michigan, and up into Canada. So Niagara Falls looks like it's represented in there. Anyways, you can see I have a whole bunch of, here's pictures of the family and little notes here underneath of who they are and what's going on, so that we can kind of identify at least who's there, where the location is. All these are in the back of this notebook. So I've got about 3 of these that are the actual scrapbooks. It was my great-grandmother that actually kept most of this. Her name is Aline. Emily Aline was her name. But she's the one that kind of kept the scrapbook side of it, if you will. And then my great-grandfather kept the journals. Here's a journal from 1944, November 7th entry. Election day, Roosevelt in for 4th term. A lot of my family was journal keepers, so this is my grandmother. Her name is Jeanette Marie McCarthy. She loved doing poems, so this is kind of her poem book. It's got a list of the very first poem that ever got published in the Montana Herald. That's my grandmother Jan there, but you can see it's kind of full of all the poems and things that she wrote over the course of her life. So having these diaries, going through them and just kind of really enjoying looking through history, I decided that's something that kind of interested me and I wanted to give it a try. So I kind of had 2 approaches I wanted to take to kind of organizing and journaling in my life. The first one is, number 1, I wanted a daily planner. After years of doing things digitally, I really want to give analog a try, as I feel it will allow me to slow down maybe a bit and be more intentional about what I'm doing. For many years, I would just, be told about an event. I'd put it in my phone, totally forget about it until 10 minutes before the event happened because my alarm or reminder would go off about it. So I never really spent a lot of time thinking about all these things going on in my life. It's just kind of like I would get on with other things and then I would just get pop-up reminders when they were happening. So on a planner level, I wanted to be a little bit more intentional about what I did on a day-to-day basis. My second goal that I wanted to accomplish was actually journaling. As I showed with these items, I have a lot of journals from my great-grandfather, and in a small nod to him, I kind of wanted to do the same thing, experience and go through and record just like he did. Also, there really is something to be said for actually holding an item that a person worked on themselves. Reading a digital journal will never be the same experience as holding a book a person actually sat down and wrote themselves. and with their own hands. It links, to me, generations together better than in a lot more tangible way than just having a bunch of digital entries. I can't tell you the experience of being able to read these knowing that my great grandfather actually wrote these on a day-to-day basis compared to just reading it from like a Word document. Also, there, as you saw from the scrapbook, there really is something to be said for ephemera, having just items to look at and clippings to see. Really is ups the level of the experience, and again, gives you a little bit more connection to them. I get a small peek into his life. As I've gone through these, I've also found that some of the items I tended to just skip, but some that really I felt represent him himself. So my goal with the journaling portion of my notebook is to only place items that may be of value or really bring a light to an event or maybe of interest to someone 100 years from now. You know, some of these things are well over 100 years old. 1916, so we're, over 100 years old is when my great-grandfather Landon wrote this. So I wanted to create a journal that I felt would be interesting for my great-grandson or great-granddaughter someday when they decide to kind of look at me as a person in my life. So once I had made that decision to make an effort to do some analog planning and journaling, I decided to just, I figured it was going to be a quick Google search. I'd find out a diary somewhere and off I would go. And man, was I wrong on that, because YouTube took me on a trip that was several days in the making. I had no idea that this area was so robust and had so much availability to it. So I went and looked at a bunch of different systems and finally settled on a traveler's notebook. The reason I did that was because first, I wanted flexibility. That was important to me. I wanted, and the traveler's notebook has a wide range of inserts, so I can kind of build it out how I wanted to. The inserts were smaller, so I can tackle things in smaller chunks. I don't want to have to feel like I have to fill out a page a day. I think it also allows me to change things up more quickly, and I don't have to, if something's not working out, I don't have this big, thick annual diary I feel like I have to go through. I can just take that smaller notebook, kind of finish things in that particular format, and then I've got a new notebook where I can kind of mix things up and change it up and kind of keep it fresh, I guess, if you will. The next one is my personality loved the rabbit hole of Traveler's Notebook because I'm a collector, I'm a nerd, I'm a geek. So when I get into something, I get into it deep, and Traveler's Notebook can take you down. There's a whole culture around it. Getting these specific annual notebooks and all that kind of stuff just appeal to my nature. So that alone has been a struggle for me because I have to keep myself from clicking on buy this all the time. And that was only made more difficult because I may have to make a side note here. I really enjoy jetpins.com. Their videos are informative, and honestly, those people are absolutely hilarious. Miriam, don't ever stop your videos because my wife and I just laugh out loud at those. And although it's true, I spent more than a little bit of money on jetpins.com. I wasn't paid to endorse them at all. I just found that to be the most educational one when I was kind of doing my research. They had really good videos, explained things really well, and again, they were just funny. I ordered, I think, maybe 4 different times from their website, and all of them shipped within a day or two. I had them here within 3 or 4 days. I live in Utah. They're based out of California, so usually it was no more than 3 or 4 days to get to my house. So that's kind of why I decided to choose Traveler's Notebook. So let's get into it. With all that said, let's get down to it. And here's my Traveler's Notebook all put together. We'll go over the inserts that I put in, why I chose the ones that I did, and hopefully over the course of the next year here, we'll find out whether I did or didn't make good choices. So the first goal I had for my Traveler's Notebook was to have a planner. I wanted to be a little more intentional about my week to week instead of, again, just kind of going by the fly. So the first item I picked up was this 019, which is the free diary, which is the weekly plus the memo. I'd say I'm already kind of just putting some things in here in memory of my grandfather, because he's the one that kind of inspired me to start this. He was born in 1917, which is why you kind of see that there. I liked the idea of this first page for notes, so I've got my habit trackers going on here. On the first page, they also have a couple days or a couple pages of spreads where I can put an entire month at a glance real quick and just kind of document some specific important things that happened. And then of course we get into the actual weekly section. Right here, I liked, again, being able to plan, so I've got notes when I have days off. And over here on the right, I can do kind of like what my grandfather did with his journals, which is just like a quick comment about the day. So this is kind of more of a nod to my great-grandfather's section here. And I even have a little note. This little marker here indicates that you should move to the diary section of my Traveler's Notebook, because I've got another insert for diary. So that's kind of what I wanted to do here with the planner section of my notebook. I liked being able to have all this note area here on the right to kind of do whatever I wanted. So the second insert I've got in my Traveler's Notebook is the grid insert. This was done because I wanted to have, again, a journal section as well. And my handwriting is not the best in the world, so I knew that probably having some grids would be important for me. This is where I plan on having I guess you refer to it as ephemera, but more stickers and items that are of value. I don't want to throw in just a bunch of crafty stuff here. It's going to be, things like that Cardinal Knot Hole Gang ticket and those types of things that might be an interesting view of my life from someone that might be reading this 100 years from now. So I've got journal entries that refer to I've been on an effort to lose weight, so I even got a graph here kind of showing my efforts in that one. Why I chose to journal. This is the insert that I think most people are going to want to really look at. This one's not going to be one that's referred to often. It kind of more mimics what my great-grandfather did. It's more of a, hey, this little thing happened in the day, which is in here, but also, again, there is always reference to that star indicates that you need to go to the journal, so you can go to the journal and find that very same day listed that kind of gives more detail about an important event or something along that lines. This is the section that gets to know me as an individual. So with that in mind, I also picked up these binders, refill binders, so that I can just take those refills, the journal refills, and put them in the binder, so that someday there's just a nice layout of all the journal entries that I had. The other insert that I got was a zipper pocket for a few things like a ruler and some stencils that I might need to be able to kind of create this my Traveler's Notebook. So which inserts am I on the fence on? I picked up the card file thinking that I might make this my one go-to item, because currently I use an extra wallet to kind of hold my driver's license and a few cards, and I was thinking, why do I want to carry around a bunch of stuff? It'd be nice to condense that into the traveler's notebook. But again, that's a pretty big thing to carry around versus a small pocket wallet. So for now, I'm just kind of keeping it to the side. And if I end up finding that I carry this around with me everywhere, then I might consider swapping in the card file just so I can kind of put them in here and maybe get rid of my wallet. So the last kind of section here is what did I purchase to enhance my traveler's notebook experience, if you will. As I mentioned earlier, I do want to kind of do some habit tracking, but I have no intention like some of these other YouTubers do where they spend 30 minutes drawing out a habit tracker calendar on one of their pages. I'm one that just wants to get down and do things, so instead of that I picked up, I'm not sure which one I'm going to use yet. I've got a stamp so I can get 1,000 of these habit trackers, nice and simple. I've also got the washi tape with kind of a habit tracker square grid on it. I'm not sure which of these I'm going to use yet, but I figure that's going to just let me put it in and start tracking a habit quickly without, again, spending a whole lot of time drawing one out in my book. I also picked up the clip so that I could hold the journal entries open while I'm working on them. I got the pen clip. Credit to jetpens.com. Man, I never thought I'd go down the rabbit hole of pens, and man, I can't tell you how many different versions that I purchased based on all the information that I was being fed. And I finally got about 5 or 6 different versions of pens, a set of 2 or 3, and settled on the Zebra Sarasa Mark-On. I really do like how smooth that is. The Mark-On dries really quickly, so I don't have to worry about smearing anything. It's smooth, and so I just kind of decided to go with this Mark-On pen. I'm not about to go down the fountain pen rabbit hole. I could see that being another dangerous section for me to look at, so for now I'm just staying away from it and going with these gel pens. Who knows, maybe someday I might try the fountain pen thing out, but for now, Jet Pens, you got enough of my money, so be glad I'm here, and maybe someday I'll be back there. So there you have it, my goal for planning and journaling, my objectives with it, why I went with a traveler's notebook, and my intention is to give this thing a shot, and in a couple months maybe post and say what I found is working and not working towards those goals, because again, my primary goal is to do a little bit more intentional planning and some journaling. So in a couple months I'll probably post another video with an update. My wife saw what I was doing and got into it as well, so not only do I have this, but my wife's got her own. It'll be interesting to see how she approaches the same notebook, so maybe someday I'll post a video showing kind of what she chose to use the traveler's notebook. I'm sure it's going to be quite different than the way that I do it. She is definitely a scrapbooker, so it's probably going to be a lot more art and stickers in there than what you're going to see out of mine. But again, I'm just trying to meet this goal of having some decent journaling that might be something that my great-grandson is interested in looking at. So that is it. We'll see where this takes me, and thanks for watching.